The halls of the Red Keep were quieter than they had ever been, not because the war was over, not because peace had come, but because so much had been lost, burned, blown apart, or thrown from windows in despair. Jaime Lannister stood beside the stone table where Tommen's lifeless body lay. The boy's face was pale, lips tinged with blue. The silence between father and son was eternal now. Jaime hadn't cried. He'd wept for Joffrey in secret, had mourned Myrcella. But for Tommen, the grief was something colder, heavier, like an iron weight on his chest. There was no one left to blame but the woman he loved. Cersei hadn't even looked at Tommen's body. She had ordered him burned. Quietly. No public funeral, no fanfare. He was weak, she had said, sipping wine while the black crown settled on her head. He betrayed his blood. That was the moment Jaime felt something inside him shatter. "You blew up the sept," he whispered the next day, standing in her chambers as she prepared to meet with Qyburn. "Thousands died." Cersei turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "They were enemies. They were your people. They hated me. They feared you," he said. "And now they'll hate you more." She laughed. Good. That laugh, that cold, empty sound was not the woman he had once held close, not the one he had protected, lied for, killed for. The wildfire had changed her. Or maybe, he thought grimly, maybe she'd always been this way, and love had blinded him. That night, Jaime stood alone in her bedchamber. The black crown rested on the dresser. She slept deeply, the wine still on her breath. He stood over her with his hand trembling at his side. The dagger he used in battle was in his palm. "I loved you," he whispered. Cersei stirred but didn't wake. "I would have done anything for you. I did do everything for you." He leaned closer. "But I loved our children more." Her eyes fluttered open. "Jaime!" And then the blade slid between her ribs, right into her heart. She gasped once. Her hands reached up to touch his face, but fell limp before they made it. He didn't cry. The sun hadn't risen yet when Jaime slipped out of the Red Keep, wearing a hooded cloak stained with blood. The castle guards didn't question him. Who would dare stop the Queen's brother? But they didn't know. Not yet. He walked until he could no longer see the towers of the Red Keep, until the sounds of bells and footsteps faded behind him. Then he sat down beneath the shadow of an old abandoned inn just outside the city walls, and only then, with no one to see, did Jaime finally break. His hands shook, his breathing turned ragged. The same dagger that killed his king long ago had now killed his queen, his sister, his lover, the mother of his children. But unlike Aerys, she had deserved it. He kept replaying her last breath. The look in her eyes, not fear, not hatred, something almost gentle. Was it love, or was it recognition? He didn't sleep that night. And when dawn came, so did the cries. The city was in uproar. "The Queen is dead. She was murdered in her bed. Jaime Lannister is gone." By mid-morning, ravens had flown. The word would spread faster than wildfire. Jaime Lannister had murdered Cersei, the Queenslayer. He didn't stay to listen. He travelled west along the Rose Road, avoiding towns, sleeping in stables, Horses shied away from him. Birds went quiet in his presence. It was as if the world sensed the ghost he had become. In a smoky tavern deep in the Reach, he overheard a bard singing, "Golden hair and lion's pride, he kissed the queen, then let her die. A blade at night, a lover's crime, the lion roars for the end of time." Jaime didn't say a word. He dropped a silver stag on the counter and left. It was Brienne who found him. She stood in the middle of a dirt road in the Riverlands, arms folded across her chest, her face tight with worry. Jaime stopped his horse when he saw her, half in shock, half in shame. "You heard?" he said. Brienne nodded. "Everyone has." "Then you know what I've done." She looked at him for a long time. "I know why." That silence between them wasn't cold. It was heavy, filled with things neither could say. He dismounted, walked toward her. "She was going to burn everything," he said. "Everything we built. Everything we lost. She didn't care about the realm. Not anymore." "She never did," Brienne said softly. "I knew that," he admitted. "But I loved her anyway." He sank to his knees, golden hand clenched. "She took Tommen from me. I couldn't let her take everything else." Brienne knelt too, her voice steady. "You stopped her, before she could become worse than the Mad King." Jaime looked up at her. "I've done so many terrible things, Brienne. All for love. I don't even know who I am without her." "You're still Jaime." He shook his head. "I'm not. I'm just the Kingslayer. The Queenslayer now." "You saved lives," she insisted. "You may never be forgiven, but you can still do good." He looked into her eyes, those honest, loyal, kind eyes, and for the first time in weeks he believed her. The Iron Throne sat empty. The Queen was dead. The King was gone. The royal line of House Baratheon, through Cersei's children, had ended. What remained was silence. Tense, dangerous silence. The small council was in shambles. Qyburn had vanished. Sir Gregor was found dead. His body crumbled in the Red Keep courtyard. No sign of struggle. Some whispered that the death of Cersei had broken the spell that held the monster together. There was no ruler, no heir, only ash, smoke, and suspicion. At Dragonstone, Daenerys Targaryen read the Raven's message again and again. Cersei Lannister, Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, slain in her sleep by Sir Jaime Lannister. He has fled. The realm is without a crown. She let the letter fall. Tyrion stood beside her, silent. "You told me Jaime would never betray her," she said. "I believed he wouldn't," Tyrion replied. "I think maybe he didn't betray her. Maybe he saved us all." Daenerys narrowed her eyes. "Saved us by murder?" "Sometimes mercy looks like murder." She said nothing for a long time. Then the sun hadn't risen yet, when Jaime slipped out of the Red Keep, wearing a hooded cloak stained with blood. The castle guards didn't question him. Who would dare stop the Queen's brother? But they didn't know, not yet. He walked until he could no longer see the towers of the Red Keep, until the sounds of bells and footsteps faded behind him. Then he sat down beneath the shadow of an old abandoned inn just outside the city walls, and only then, with no one to see, did Jaime finally break. His hands shook. His breathing turned ragged. the same dagger that killed his king long ago, now killed his queen, his sister, his lover, the mother of his children. But unlike Aerys, she had deserved it. He kept replaying her last breath. The look in her eyes, not fear, not hatred, something almost gentle. Was it love or was it recognition? He didn't sleep that night. And when dawn came, so did the cries. The city was in uproar. The queen is dead. She was murdered in her bed. Jaime Lannister is gone. By mid-morning, ravens had flown. The word would spread faster than wildfire. Jaime Lannister had murdered Cersei, the Queenslayer. He didn't stay to listen. He travelled west, along the Rose Road, avoiding towns, sleeping in stables. Horses shied away from him. Birds went quiet in his presence. It was as if the world sensed the ghost he had become. In a smoky tavern deep in the Reach, he overheard a bard singing, "Golden hair and lion's pride, he kissed the queen, then let her die. A blade at night, a lover's crime. The lion roars for the end of time." Jaime didn't say a word. He dropped a silver stag on the counter and left. It was Brienne who found him. She stood in the middle of a dirt road in the Riverlands, arms folded across her chest, her face tight with worry. Jaime stopped his horse when he saw her, half in shock, half in shame. "You heard," he said. Brienne nodded. "Everyone has." "Then you know what I've done?" She looked at him for a long time. "I know why." That silence between them wasn't cold. It was heavy, filled with things neither could say. He dismounted, walked toward her. "She was going to burn everything," he said. "Everything we built, everything we lost. She didn't care about the realm, not anymore." "She never did," Brienne said softly. "I knew that," he admitted, "but I loved her anyway." He sank to his knees, golden hand clenched. "She took Tommen from me. I couldn't let her take everything else." Brienne knelt too, her voice steady. "You stopped her, before she could become worse than the Mad King." Jaime looked up at her. "I've done so many terrible things, Brienne. All for love. I don't even know who I am without her. You're still Jaime." He shook his head. "I'm not. I'm just the Kingslayer, the Queenslayer now." "You saved lives," she insisted. "You may never be forgiven, but you can still do good." He looked into her eyes, those honest, loyal, kind eyes, and for the first time in weeks he believed her. King's Landing stood in confusion. "If Westeros tears itself apart now, I'll be landing on ruins." Tyrion gave a bitter smile. That might be the perfect time to land. In the north, Jon Snow received the news with a cold, distant gaze. "Cersei is dead," he said quietly. "To Sansa." Sansa raised an eyebrow. "And Jaime did it?" "So they say." "And the Iron Throne?" He looked away. "No one sits on it now." Sansa stepped closer. "This is our chance, Jon. With no ruler in the south, the north can remain free." But Jon was still staring out the window. "I don't think the south will stay broken for long." In dawn, the Martells began sending secret letters. East. "Reach House Tyrell, led by Lady Olenna's niece, rallied what forces remained. In the Stormlands, Gendry Waters, legitimized by royal decree before Tommen's death, found himself receiving strange visitors. Lords who would once spit on a bastard now bent the knee in hope of survival. The realm was split, but one name whispered through taverns, brothels, and castles: Jaime Lannister. Some called him a traitor, others a saviour, but no one could ignore what he had done. The lion had killed the lioness. Jaime travelled alone now. Brienne had gone to the Vale to speak on his behalf at a council of northern lords. She believed he deserved a trial, one that might clear his name. He didn't argue, but he didn't wait. He moved like a ghost through the riverlands, sometimes helping travellers on the road, sometimes sleeping in barns. He had no plan, no purpose, just movement, until he found himself staring up at Harrenhal. The ruins loomed like the broken bones of a giant, black stone melted by dragon fire. A cursed place, a fitting place. He made camp inside the great hall. Here, among ash and silence, he would wait. Elsewhere, in a hidden glade, Arya Stark cleaned the edge of her dagger. The queen is dead, Gendry told her. Arya didn't stop polishing. And who killed her? She asked. Jaime, she smirked. About time, Gendry frowned. The lords are gathering. They want to pick a new ruler. Arya stood. Let them. He looked up. You're not going? No, Arya said. I've had enough of thrones. But the game wasn't done with Jaime yet. One night, while he sat watching the moon through the cracks in Harrenhal's roof, he heard footsteps. Not a soldier's stomp, not a bandit's shuffle, a calm, even walk. He turned, and standing there, in the moonlight, was Tyrion. Tyrion looked older. The last time Jaime had seen him, they had parted in tension, their bond strained under the weight of betrayal and war. But now, in the dead halls of Harrenhal, they were brothers again, two ghosts walking through the wreckage of legacy. Jaime stood slowly, hand hovering over the hilt of his sword, just in case. But Tyrion only raised a hand. I didn't come. To fight. You should have. I deserve it. Tyrion walked past him and sat on a broken column. You do? Jaime lowered himself beside him. How did you find me? I always knew where you'd go when you had nothing left. Harrenhal. The place where everything burns, even the past. Silence stretched between them, heavy but not hostile. Jaime finally asked, Do you hate me? Tyrion sighed. I don't. No. I hated Cersei. But I never hated you. Even when I should have. I killed her, Tyrion. I know. I killed her because I couldn't stop loving her. And I couldn't let her destroy what was left of our name. That's the problem with love, Tyrion said quietly. It ruins men. They sat there for hours, two lions without a pride, two survivors of a bloodline that tore itself apart. Then Tyrion said the words that would change everything. Daenerys is calling a great council at the Dragon Pit. She wants the remaining houses to decide the future. They're offering you a trial. Jaime looked at him with a hollow laugh. You think I care what they decide? You should, Tyrion said. Because if you don't stand for something now, Cersei wins anyway. The last thing you can do for the realm is tell the truth. Jaime stared into the fire he had built earlier. She burned them alive, he said at last. All those people. She didn't even blink. And Tommen, he couldn't live with it. That's the truth. That's all there is. "Then say it," Tyrion said. "Let the realm hear it from your mouth." A week later, the Dragon Pit held more banners than it had in a century. House Stark, House Tyrell, House Martell, the Vale, even Ironborn captains. Daenerys sat at the head, with Jon Snow beside her. Grey Worm and the Unsullied lined the outer walls. Arya watched from the shadows. Sansa stood tall near Gendry, and Jaime Lannister, dressed in simple brown robes, his golden hand glinting in. The sun walked into the middle of them all. He did not kneel, did not smile, did not ask for forgiveness. He simply stood before them and spoke. "I killed Queen Cersei Lannister," he began, voice hoarse but steady, "not for vengeance, not for power, but because I believed that she was going to destroy the realm." Gasps, murmurs. Lady Tyrell leaned forward. Yara Greyjoy scowled. Jaime continued. "She murdered thousands in the Sept of Baelor. She called it justice, but it was terror. It was madness. She lost her son and felt nothing. She planned to burn more. I saw it in her eyes. There would be no stopping her. She was my sister, my lover, the mother of my children, and I killed her because she was becoming the very thing I once stopped, a tyrant with wildfire in her veins." He paused. "I've spent my whole life trying to be a knight. I wore the white cloak. I swore the oaths, and I broke everyone. But for once I did the right thing." He lowered his head. "Do what you will." "I've made peace with it," the council whispered. Jon Snow stepped forward. "You said you did it for the realm. Then fight for the realm. Help us build something better." Daenerys frowned but did not stop him. The votes were cast. Not for execution, not for exile, but for redemption. Jaime Lannister would be given no titles, no lands, but he would serve under Jon Snow as part of the effort to rebuild the realm, as a commander of peace, not war. Tyrion found him afterward, sitting alone. "Didn't think they'd spare you," he said. Jaime gave a tired smile. "Neither did I." "You're not the same man you were." Jaime looked down at his hand. "No," he said, "but maybe now I can finally become the one I should have been." Snow fell in slow spirals as Jaime rode north. He had refused a cloak bearing a house sigil. He didn't deserve one. Jon Snow had left King's Landing only days earlier, returning to Winterfell to prepare for what lay beyond the wall. The North was still tense, suspicious of Southerners, especially Lannisters, but Jon had sent word. Jaime was to assist with the rebuilding of castles, roads, and defences. The war with the Night King might be over, but winter still ruled the land. When Jaime crossed through the gates of Winterfell, he half expected the gates to close behind him and not open again. They didn't. Instead, he was greeted by Arya Stark. She stood in the snow like a statue, arms folded, grey cloak whipping in the wind. "I should hate you," she said flatly. Jaime dismounted. "I won't stop you." She tilted her head. "You killed her. That counts for something." Jaime waited. Then Arya added, "You'll stay in the East Tower. You're here to work, not rest." He nodded. "Understood. And if you betray us, I won't." She didn't smile. She didn't threaten. She just walked away. Jaime took that as mercy. Winterfell was cold in ways King's Landing never could be, more than the air or the stone. It was the silence, The weight of history, the feeling that this place had endured more than any one man ever could. Jaime spent his days hauling timber, helping repair collapsed towers, and retraining new recruits. He never complained, not when his shoulders ached, not when frost-bitten fingers bled beneath his golden hand. He bore it all. And slowly the men around him began to see not the Lion of Lannister, but the man who stayed quiet, who listened, who worked harder than any of them. Even the younger Stark, Bran, the three-eyed raven, spoke to him only once. "You pushed me once," Bran said softly as Jaime knelt beside his wheelchair. Jaime bowed his head. "I did. But you've been falling ever since." Jaime looked up. "I hope you find the ground." And that was all. As the days passed into weeks, Jaime found a kind of peace in the snow. Not joy, not redemption, but peace. Brienne came to Winterfell not long after. She walked into the courtyard one morning while Jaime was splitting firewood. They didn't speak at first, just a long silence. The sound of steel on bark. Then, "You look awful," she said. "I feel worse," he replied. But he smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. One night, sitting by the fire in the great hall, Brienne asked the question neither of them had spoken aloud. "Do you regret it?" Jaime stared into the flames. "I regret everything that led to it," he said. "But not that moment." She nodded slowly, then reached across the table, touching his golden hand. "Then you've changed." "No," he said. "I've just finally stopped lying to myself." Rumors of a new alliance spread across the north. Jon Snow and Daenerys working side by side. The realm was still fragile, but it had hope now. Hope that maybe fire and blood wouldn't always win. One morning, Jaime stood atop the repaired battlements of Winterfell and watched the sun rise over the frost-covered trees. He thought of Tywin, of Tyrion, of Joffrey, Myrcella, Tommen, of Cersei, the love that twisted him, the chain that had bound him for so long, and now at last had been broken. He whispered something only the wind could hear. "I loved you, and I had to kill you to set us both free." Years passed. The realm slowly healed. Roads were rebuilt. Thrones were no longer worshipped like gods. Lords and ladies argued as they always had, but fewer died for power and fewer cities burned. King's Landing had changed under Daenerys and Jon's shared leadership. Tyrion, now Hand once more, guided the realm not with cunning, but with caution. And in the north, peace bloomed like spring thawing along winter. Jaime Lannister remained in Winterfell. He never returned to the capital. He never asked for his name to be cleared in songs. He refused land, title, gold. Instead, he lived quietly, training squires, fixing walls, even reading to children in the library on snow-filled nights. They called him Ser Jaime, never Kingslayer. Not in the north. He had lost his golden armor, lost his pride, but somewhere along the way he found something rarer. Honor. One autumn Brienne came to him holding a letter from Tyrion. "He says he's dying," she said. Jaime's hand trembled. As he held the parchment, Tyrion's final words were written in elegant, almost poetic scrawl. "You were always the better man, brother. It just took you longer to see it." I go now with peace in my heart, because I know you're still out there, doing good in a world that once broke us. And maybe, if there's a place beyond, we'll drink one last glass of arbor gold together. Tell Brienne I said hello, and tell the world what we did mattered." Jaime didn't cry, but when he folded the letter, he looked older than he ever had. That winter, Brienne and Jaime walked side by side across the frozen lakes outside Winterfell. "I sometimes wonder," Brienne said, "if you hadn't killed her, she would have burned everything," Jaime finished, "including me. You saved more than the realm, you know." He looked at her. "You saved yourself." They stopped walking. The wind was gentle, the sky clear, the sun glowed low on the horizon. "I still don't feel like a hero," he admitted. "Good," Brienne said. "Heroes get people killed, but men like you might just keep them alive." When Jaime passed away many years later, it wasn't on a battlefield. It wasn't with fire or screams or glory. It was in a small wooden chair by the hearth in Winterfell's library, a book half open. In his lap, his hair was silver, his face lined. But he wore a soft smile. Brienne found him that way. She did not weep. Instead, she sat beside him, opened her own book, and kept reading. Years later, a bard at the New Red Keep sang a song few had heard before, not of dragons, not of queens, but of a lion who broke his chains. He killed a queen to save a king, and laid his golden hand down low. He gave the sword, he gave the throne, so peace again might grow. The lion walked from fire and ash, and found a quieter grace, not in power, not in fear, but in a northern place. And when the snow at last did fall, and silence claimed the land, the lion slept with no regrets, his sins washed from his hand.